Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Eliezer Melamed, Shlita. Well, here we are, so Shavua, Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Parashas Vayishlach, another week in the books. We ask you to please continue davening for Charlei Tzvah Israel, for Shalom and Chol B'Tzvei Yisrael. Hopefully, resolution for the families. Hostages can be brought up to Kavuras Yisrael, and we learn each day Leilin Nishmat Ser and Daniel Shemoneh Esreh. Next chapter, Mesayim Tefillah. Hamasayim Tefillah Shemoneh Esreh v'haya adam omed acharav b'tefillah. So if let's say a person has finished Shemoneh Esreh, but someone is standing behind you saying Shemoneh Esreh still. Im hu rachok mimeno arba amos v'od shir shalosh psiyos. If he's more than 4 amos behind you, and also you have room to take your 3 steps back, kashim yifsa shalosh psiyos lacharav v'lichanes l'toch arba amasav yifsa lacharav. Now, meaning that if you take your 3 steps back appropriately, as we have discussed in previous chapters, and by doing so you still won't be within his 4 amos range, then you could take the steps back. If you munkar of Yoser, but if he's closer, lo yifsal achar av shemispal achar v'yisayim tefillah. So, but if he's closer than that, then you shouldn't take your 3 steps back until the person behind you finishes his Shemoneh Esreh. Va'afilu im zeh she'omer acharav hischil yispalam ucher v'hu ma'ach b'tefillah. So let's say even if the person started Shemoneh Esreh long after you, and it's taking a much longer time, aslo lehikanas b'psiyosov l'toch arba masav, you cannot take your 3 steps back into his airspace, so to speak. And as we have learned, there is a dispute amongst the Acharonim and the parameters of this prohibition. So ladas hamagan Avraham gam ami mispal ein omen mamash acharav. Kozman shebe psiyosav hu posiyah besoch haradios shel arba amos shel lefanov olav lahamtim ad shezeh she'achar v'sayim tefillah. So as we saw, the stricter opinion of the Magen Avraham, that it's not just directly in front of you, but it's in the wingspan, so to speak, and that area covering that range of Daled Amos. So if you would take your 3 steps back, and you'll still be in his 4 amos radius. That's actually the word that the Rav uses, radius. So then you have to wait till he finishes. According to Eliyah Rabbah, only if he's directly behind you, meaning that if you back up, that you'll be 3 steps back directly in front of him, then you're prohibited from taking the steps back. Aval, if the person is not directly behind you, then you can take your 3 steps behind, because your 3 steps back will not be directly in front of the person behind you. It's better to follow the opinion of the Magen Avraham. And at a time of need, person can certainly be lenient like the Eliyah Rabbah. Another solution that we could do, he says, is that person can certainly maybe go back on a slant. If you don't take 3 steps directly back, but if you kind of go on an angle, and therefore you're not in front of the person that's directly behind you, this is also certainly considered allowed according to Eliyah Rabbah. If between you and the person who is Davening Shemoneh Esreh, there's someone who has finished Shemoneh Esreh, then you're allowed to take your 3 steps back. So in other words, you want to take 3 steps back. The person behind you has finished Shemoneh Esreh, but he can't take 3 steps back because the person behind him is still davening Shemoneh Esreh. So the first person, again, that's 1, 2, and 3, one is allowed to take 3 steps back because there's a separation between you and the person actually saying Shemoneh Esreh. This is a very practical halacha. So if, let's say, there is some physical boundary between you and the person behind you that's at least 10 tefachim high, and it's at least 4 tefachim wide, then you're allowed to take your 3 steps back. So he says the practical application of this, of course, are the pews. If you daven in a shul with pews, or let's say there's a table or there's a chair, which is why sometimes people always want to daven in front of a chair or stender, something like that, that serves as a separation, and therefore you would be allowed to take your 3 steps back because you're not directly in front of the person. He has a barrier in front of him, so to speak, a halachak mechitza, which allows you then not to disturb him. If you're being prevented from taking your 3 steps back because the person behind you has not yet said Shemoneh Esreh, but you finished, you just haven't taken the 3 steps back, nevertheless, you're still allowed to answer all parts of tefillah. even though you haven't separated physically, but you have finished your tefillah, so you could say, Amen, Baruch Hu, Shemo, Kaddish, Kedusha, etc. And if you get to Tachanun, you could actually sit down and say Tachanun, but you shouldn't sit directly in front of the person saying Shemoneh Esreh still. So imagine this. You're waiting to take your 3 steps back. The person behind you is still davening. And then you get to Tachnun. So you could sit down, say Tachnun, and then stand up. And then when the person finishes, then you could take your 3 steps back and say Oso Shalom. So you're actually saying Tachnun before you've technically completed the entirety of Shemoneh Esreh. Very unusual halacha, but one has to know what to do. So we all know what to do because you're learning with us each and every day. So wishing everybody a peaceful and restful Shabbos ahead. Parshas Vayishlach. Please continue davening for Chali Tzvagan Yisrael, for Yisrael, turn over our hostages of Perez Yisrael, Nishmat and Daniel Shimon Ben Harav Deron V'Shel Shekman Damo. Again, thank you so much for joining again this week. Have a great Shabbos. We'll see you here next week.